What are you still salty about? A few years ago I was nominated by somebody, I still don't know who, for a statewide Teacher of the Year award. After finding out, I went to my principal to ask if she would write a letter of recommendation for me. She told me she needed a couple of days to think about it. I emailed her all of the paperwork and info that she would need in case she decided to write her letter. After about a week of waiting for a response, I went back to ask her what she had decided, and she told me that after consulting with the superintendent they decided that since I had only been teaching for about 6 years, they didn't feel like I was experienced enough or worthy enough to be nominated for an award like this. I put on my best professional fake smile, said thanks for your honesty but I disagree, and told her I would keep asking for people to write a recommendation. Fast forward about a month. After finding other co-workers and colleagues from other schools to write recommendations, I got word from the awards committee saying congratulations and that I had won this State Teacher of the Year award. The first FU was to email my principal and the superintendent to share the news and invite them to the award ceremony. Never heard a response from either of them. FU number 2 came from my coworkers who ordered a giant banner to hang in my classroom and planned a surprise before after school. Neither showed up to that either. And the biggest FU to date is that whenever I email either of them I always sign it, name, school, State Teacher of the Year. What made the high school legend become a legend? Our history teacher was ex-military, and he was absolutely jacked. Like this guy would bike 10 miles every morning to school, kept an ab roller in his classroom, would eat salads and beans for lunch every day, the whole shebang. Anyway, one day he gives our class a pop quiz. Jeff, the strongest, biggest guy in my class, goes up to him and asks if I can punch you in the stomach and make you flinch. The entire class gets a 100 on the quiz. My teacher took him up on it. He prepared himself, and Jeff absolutely drills him in the stomach. Our teacher did not flinch. We still had to take the quiz, but Jeff went down in history as the guy who punched a teacher, and the teacher went down in history as a guy you don't want to effing mess with. Joe Sticka, class of 1969 at my high school. The guy didn't exist. He was created by a group of my friends as a mid-year transfer student with a totally fabricated deep background that was so smooth Joe even made the yearbook with a picture unavailable caption. As a teenager, what was the worst thing your parents ever walked in on you doing? When I was but a nipper, 14-15, I had the really great idea of making some sweet booze in my bedroom. To the shops I went and returned with glucose powder and bread yeast, which I mixed in a 500 milliliters plastic bottle with a sports cap, with the top popped open so the carbon dioxide could get out. I shoved some cotton wool under the sports cap, for hygiene. Or something. My classy brew was assembled, I stashed it away at the back of the filing cabinet and left it for a week. A week turned out to be the perfect amount of time for everything to go horribly wrong. The yeast took to the glucose with gusto and formed a thick layer filling the top of the bottle, with the consistency, texture and color of rather chunky puke. I didn't really understand I'd done, I just knew it was unholy and that I had to get rid of it. But first I wanted a sniff, maybe a little poke at this plug of chunky puke facsimile filling the top half of the bottle. I eased the top off. Now, it turns out that my fastidious attention to hygiene had left the bottle somewhat airtight, as my bottle of what was essentially prison wine had been brewing. The carbon dioxide had been building up and building up and building up. I'm sure you know where this is going. The cap exploded off, the bottle vomited up its yeasty cargo with a muted bang, spilling the material all over the ceiling and walls and releasing the most horrific smell. I watched helpless as the fountainhead gushed forth and by mine own hand coated every single one of my possessions in a thick layer of barf that was not barf, but something worse. I stood, my maw agape, caught entirely in that rapturous moment where one knows that one has completely and utterly effed up, watching. As powerless to stop the F up as to stop the slow winding down of time. I managed to hide it for about 3 hours while I furiously scurried back and forth between the bathroom and my bedroom with toilet roll and soap, trying to unmake my folly. There were a few close shaves, a few conversations with my parents with my head peeking innocent round the door. But of course, I was caught. I made a sortie to get more toilet roll. While I was away, my mum came into the room with some washing. I returned to see her standing in the middle of the room, staring, her mouth yawning like the gates of hell, her glazed and fish-like eyes that saw but did not believe. Enshrined in the center of the floor-to-ceiling spattered vomitorium, Brahma floating uncomprehendingly through the eternal, primordial chaos, I remember those words as she turned and her eyes met mine. I remember the feel of the toilet roll between my fingers, clutched tightly as my aegis as I stuttered I was trying to clean. And there, backlit by the corruption crusting all 6 faces of my room, she mouthed, "Oh my God. What is the biggest act of I got your back bro that has ever been done for you?" Years ago I got drunk with some friends. At the end of the night I had lost everyone and took the bus home, alone. While the bus stops almost in front of my house, it takes about 45 minutes to get there. I was really shit-faced and just barely made my way to some seat in the back. While I was getting more and more tired, a few minutes later some guys, maybe 6 or 7, sat next to me. I could barely keep my eyes open, but was able to clearly hear them talking about how they're going to steal my things and maybe beat me up a little. So there I was sitting, drunk, unable to move my body, almost asleep but totally aware of the situation I was in, and there was nothing I could do about it. Suddenly one of the guys interrupted the discussion about where to get me and told everyone no one is going to touch that guy. That's Figa, I know him. We used to play together at the river when we were younger. He turns to me and talks a few words about how we used to hang out and said I could sleep now. He would watch my back, and so I fell asleep. My newfound old bro woke me up when we were at the station and made sure I got home safe. He probably walked home then. I haven't really talked to him since, maybe saw him once or twice. We live in quite different worlds, I guess. What highly illegal thing took place at your high school? Little bit of backstory first. Our school had a big renovation ongoing, and because of that, almost half of the school was closed down. The closed part included the biggest bathrooms, and because of that, the school administration ordered 2 toilet barracks to be placed on the schoolyard. So, some 7th-9th graders decided to buy some toilet pipe opener liquid, I don't know what is the correct term, and aluminium foil. They put the aluminium foil inside some plastic bottles and poured a little pipe opener in them with the foil. As someone has probably done this before, knows what is going to happen next. They stuck 6 bottles total inside the toilet bowls in every stall of one barrack and blew them up due to the chemical reaction between the foil and the opener. All the pipings of the single barrack were destroyed due to water pressure inside the pipes. Turns out that the 2 barracks have connected pipings and the water that was in the bowls in the other barrack shot up to the ceiling due to pressure. The students never got caught, and if I remember correctly, the incident ended up costing a hefty amount for the school administration. The barracks were taken away, and were replaced with new ones. Has a woman ever made you feel truly uncomfortable? What happened? I had a female coworker that was obsessed with me. She knew I had a girlfriend and wouldn't quit. She asked me to hang out all the time, lunch, dinner, breakfast, etc. She would show up at Starbucks in the morning when I was getting my coffee and things like that. One day I showed up to work with sunburn and she told me she had nice soothing aloe vera lotion to put all over my burn at her apartment. Another day I had a bruise over my eye from an accidental elbow playing basketball, and similar to the lotion she told me stop by her apartment because she had the pain soothing Neosporin for it. She came to my door once unannounced and told me she had 2 tickets to the Warped Tour, an hour away, and had a hotel room booked already, and asked if I wanted to go. She would park near me all the time and sit in her car waiting for me to walk out so she could talk to me. She asked me to chaperone her to her wisdom teeth surgery, which I did because you can't drive afterwards, but she took that as me showing interest. After almost 1.5 years and being married, she finally stopped. Uber drivers, what's the deepest secrets you've overheard in your car? One time I was driving a dude for a bit of a long trip, was gonna take around 25 to 30 minutes. He wasn't hammered, but definitely a bit drunk. It was late and he must have been feeling a bit down, so he confided in me and asked me for some advice. He told me he's madly in love with his fiance's best friend and he couldn't back out now. He'd been with this girl 4 years, and engaged for 1, ready to be married in a few months. It was pretty sad to hear, because it wasn't just your average story. It was filled with a lot of subtle emotional and mental anguish. The guy went through about 5 years of ups and downs with his girl, and found an innocent friend and comfort in the best friend. After a few years, he developed feelings and it was just downhill from there. Felt bad for the guy because he seemed like he was truly in love with his fiancée too, although he had strong feelings for this friend. He knew that going through with the marriage meant a lifetime of being around the friend and suppressing feelings, but also breaking it off meant that he lost the girl of his dreams. Seemed like a genuinely nice guy, and I hope he's doing okay. What is one of the dumbest things you've done when your brain was on autopilot? I work at a busy restaurant, so I end up saying corner hundreds of times a night as I go back and forth around corners and doorways in the kitchen. Was running food to a table, set it down gently, and in my sweetest customer service voice I said corner while looking the customer right in the eye instead of here is your soup or something like I usually do. They looked confused, my brain tried to reset, and so naturally I said thank you as if that made it better. I ended up just backing away. It was a lost cause. This is a while ago, but I was working at McDonald's and worked in the morning, not a morning person, still not. My brain wakes up around 10 a.m. and I think it was like 8 a.m. And I handed this lady her large coffee and the sun shined bright in my eyes and all I said was praise the sun, and she looked at me all weird and drove off. I told my friend you're welcome, after he sneezed and excused himself the other day. Let a coffee machine run without a jug under it, went to take a shower and had to clean up the mess afterwards. What is the dumbest 100% serious thing someone has said to you? I've been a cook for 15 years. One time a server asked me to rush a chicken breast she forgot to ring in. I said okay, it will be a few minutes, it's still a bit raw, just give it to me. It's fine, she says. I tell her I don't feel like giving anyone salmonella poisoning today and she will have to wait. Her jaw drops and her face turns red. She rather belligerently shouts just give it to her because she's losing tip money, then adds besides, people don't get salmonella from chicken, they get it from salmon. You're a cook, you should know that by now. Every person in that room did the slow neck turn of what the F did I just hear and just stared at her. I used to work at Best Buy and I had a customer, lady in her 30s, come in with her plasma television on the flat cart. She says I need the plasma refill, so I give the old customer service fake laugh because I thought it had to be a joke, but the look on her face and pissed tone showed that she was serious. I took her to the home theater department and from a distance I can hear her going off about plasma refill prices or shouldn't the warranty cover the plasma?